What's good, everybody? Welcome into Daily Betslip on a Thursday. I'm your host, Donnavan Smoot. Got my boy Peter Dewey with me today. We have a whole bunch on the show for you today. We have some preseason football. Titans and Ravens is our game of the night. If you guys want to vote on the community poll, the winner of that is the bet that we will be placing at the end of the night. So we have NFL preseason, we have some WNBA, we have some Field of Dreams baseball action tonight. There's a whole bunch going on. Peter, what's going on, man?
Dude, I'm feeling good. We got football starting to feel like it's back. We had a off the show. We had a little fantasy football talk, so I'm already getting fired up for football season. It does preseason. I feel like you get the vibes that football's back, but at the same time, it's so tough to watch sometimes with like third stringers out there. But still excited. Probably going to tune into some of that. Watch some of the Field of Dreams game tonight. Should be a good sports night.
Yeah, I think as soon as I start seeing people start like tweeting about football, and like then we start getting like a whole bunch of random stats, and like we get to nerd out, and people start tweeting about DVOA and EPA and stuff like that. Once I see that on my timeline, like I know, and I'm fully ready. But let's kick off the show today with our bad beat of the day. Actually, it comes from you because you had a bad beat, gave out the pick yesterday on the show, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, so yesterday I had Sandy Alcantara to give up under 2.5 runs, which I really thought was a solid bet. And it was looking like a solid bet because he went 7 innings, 1 earned. And I was like, hey, we're in a good spot here. And then the Marlins brought him out for the 8th inning, which I was hoping they wouldn't do, but his pitch count was low. So in the back of my head, I knew it was probably going to happen. And he didn't give up just 1 run, he gave up three. So he ended up finishing 7 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs. Brutal way to lose that bet because the whole game just felt like he was dominating the first 7 innings. It felt like, okay, this is just another one of Sandy Alcantara's like starts. Like he's just going to do it. And then to have him go out there, give up the second run, then leave him in the game and him to give up two more. That was a tough way to lose that one. I felt pretty confident about that one, but still I was 2-2 yesterday in the MLB, so I'll take it. It wasn't a horrible night.
Yeah. And listen, it was kind of like that one kind of hurt for all of us because over at BetSided, we're kind of on a heater right now. We
Mm-hmm.
are we are 7-1 in our last eight, or I think 8-1 in our last nine MLB bets. So every day we have our top prop bets for the MLB. Make sure to go check that out over at BetSided. Peter had the lone win. I mean the lone loss last night. Kind of messed it up, but it's okay. We'll forgive Peter. We'll keep it moving. But let's get into our best bets for today. We have some WNBA picks, some baseball picks, even some football. But let's start in the WNBA. I want to know where you going for your best bet.
Yeah, I'm taking the Connecticut Sun tonight, -11 against the Los Angeles Sparks. These two teams played on Tuesday, and the Sun just absolutely blew them out by 26. I know the Sparks are technically still alive for that last playoff spot. They're like a game back, and there's four teams tied for those last two spots. But this team is reeling since Liz Cambage just left the roster. They lost 6 out of 7. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've just been getting absolutely smoked. You look at their underlying metrics, like the Sun are number one in the league in net rating. The Sparks are 11th out of 12 teams. The Sun are top two in defensive rating, top three in offensive rating. The Sparks are 10th and 11th in those categories. Like they're just not a good basketball team. And the other thing is, the other time these two teams played, the Sun won by 17. So it's not like they had one outlier win against them. Like they smoked them both times these two teams played. The Suns still have a chance to get that top seed in the East. For them, this game matters a lot more than it does for the Sparks. I don't think the Sparks have a shot to make the playoffs. They'd have to win out and get some help. I don't see that happening. So I know it's a big number, but the Sun have been really good on the road this year. They've covered in 10 of their 17 road games. So I'm down to lay it, especially after the way Tuesday's game went.
No, I really like that pick as well because I think the only thing that Los Angeles is good at is really just running fast. They have
Mm-hmm.
they have one of the highest paces in the league, but outside of that, they're not efficient on either side of the ball. And Connecticut obviously is one of the more efficient teams in the league. Are in the top four in net rating, and so you look at them. So I like that pick. I also have a pick for the second WNBA game of the night. There's only two games on. And this one really is probably like the game of the year, honestly, because you have the Sky and the Aces. This is the last matchup that they have. They are separated by a game in terms of number one seed and number two seed. And it's as close as you can get without it being a pick 'em. It's a 1 point spread. I'm taking the Sky money line plus 100, even money tonight. They lost the last matchup, which was the Commissioner's Cup. They lost it by 10. They also lost the first matchup, and then they had the insane comeback in the second game against the Aces. I just think that I think this game is going to really kind of just fall into Chicago's hands. I think that they're in a really good spot to bounce back. They suffered a loss against the Seattle Storm the last time out, and like Las Vegas, you think of the Aces as like this crazy high, this high octane offense, which they are, but the Sky aren't. They're not that far off from what Las Vegas does offensively. They're 2.7 points behind them in offensive efficiency, but the Sky's defense is much, much better. They have a better net rating than the Aces. Both teams they're 11-5 like in this scenario. So the Aces are 11-5 at home. The Sky are 11-5 on the road, and I don't think that there's really a lot kind of separating these teams. The road team has won each one of these matchups, so I'm going to ride that trend. And I think that Chicago kind of bounced back. They put their foot down. They let Las Vegas know that the number one seed is theirs. So yeah, I truly think that this could be like the game of the night.
Yeah, I don't mind that play at all. I think when you have these two teams playing against each other, like it's going to be a good game. Might as well try and get some kind of value out of it. And yeah, this very well could be our WNBA Finals matchup later this summer. So I think not opposed to it all. Obviously, Vegas's offense is just absolutely nuts with all the talent they have on it. But I mean, the Sky are pretty solid team as well. You can't discount them, especially at this number. I would have thought they would have been favored, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and so I think it's just the fact that they're on the road that's kind of like this. But so we have two more picks each. Let's kind of just zoom through them. Let me hear your next two best bets of the night, and I'll give my two best bets.
Yeah, so I have two MLB plays. Been rocking with a lot of MLB lately. I'm gonna go with my first one. It's a money line pick. I'm taking the Orioles as short underdogs against the Red Sox tonight. And I mean, I've been all on this Orioles train basically dating back a couple months now. They're now in the playoffs. Right? If the season ended today, they'd be tied for a playoff spot in the American League. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. And the Red Sox are reeling, man. They've lost 4 in a row. Just don't look like a good baseball team from really any aspect of their game right now. They're not hitting the ball well. Don't have a good defense. Their bullpen's been terrible. And in this pitching matchup, I was writing about this game, the Orioles game yesterday, which ended up getting rained out, and I thought that Dean Kremer, their starter, he's been this year. Like like if you just look at him on the surface, he's 4-3. He's got a 3.43 ERA, but opponents are hitting 279 against him on the year, so he's getting away with a low ERA, but he's giving up a lot of hits. But now he's facing a Boston team who started Josh Winkowski, who has not been that great this season, even though his last 2 starts have been solid. He's got over 4 ERA. Sox aren't winning more than half his starts. And the bigger issue for me is when you look at these two teams, I don't think either one of these starters goes very deep into this game. Then it comes down to the bullpen. The Red Sox are 28th in bullpen ERA. The Orioles are 3rd. So if this game is close at any point up and through that first 6 innings, I'm giving the huge edge to the Orioles on the road here. They're the best team on the run line in baseball. So I think there's more value in taking them to win this game straight up. I just don't see why Boston deserves to be favored here.
Yeah, that's one of the big things that I noticed with this game is like, and especially since the deadline, we kind of knew in what direction that the Red Sox have been trending. But then once they make those trades at the deadline, and they kind of officially label themselves as sellers, I don't really understand. I really like this line in terms of like at plus money. So I like this a lot. I think the Orioles they're on fire, and I know that you have one more MLB pick, so let me get it.
Yeah, the other one, I have another player prop. Strikeout props, I'm kind of coming around on them again. I gave out Jose Quintana yesterday, and it won. Today, I'm taking Nick Lodolo in the Field of Dreams game to go under 7.5 strikeouts. It's pretty juiced at minus 155. But at the same time, I just don't think this is a matchup where he's just going to be able to rack up a ton of strikeouts. Last year at the Field of Dreams game, we saw a ton of runs, 17 runs scored. There were 8 home runs hit. Now you got 2 bad teams in the Cubs and the Reds. Lodolo's been solid this year, but he's been far from lights out. And the Cubs only average 8.82 strikeouts a game. So to ask him to get 8 strikeouts on his own when he does not pitch deep into games, Lodolo's only had 2 starts this year where he's pitched more than 5 innings. He's gone like 6 full innings. So you're basically looking, he's probably going to get 15 outs in this game. I don't know if he strikes out half the guys he's going to get out. On the season, he does have 58 strikeouts in 43 innings. But at the same time, he's only picked up 8+ strikeouts in 3 of his 9 starts this year. So I think this number is a little high. Obviously, you got to lay some juice with the under, but at the same time, I think the ball can be flying tonight, and he might get chased even earlier. So I'll take the under here. He'd have to have one of his best games of the year to pick up 8 strikeouts. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I like that pick a lot, and I'm actually going to stay at the Field of Dreams with my next best bet. I'm taking Drew Smyly under 4.5 strikeouts, plus 110, and kind of the same thing, that you're going with is that last year we saw a lot of runs in this game. This environment is just so unique, and it's such like a cool experience that it kind of may throw some of the pitchers off, and it may give a lot of the batters just an extra little umph in their swing. But Smyly, he's missed his line in 4 of his last 5 starts, and the only one that he cleared it by the hook. So he's really much like just on the edge. He's not really a strikeout pitcher, and Cincinnati's not great in terms of strikeout rate. Smyly also to the same thing as Lodolo. He doesn't pitch far into his starts. He's only pitched past the 5th inning in 2 of his last 5 starts. I think today's going to be another short day for him. I think the entire Field of Dreams thing is just conducive to a lot of runs. So I'm gonna back you with another under on the strikeout prop. I'll take the under there.
I like that a lot because I think sometimes with these pitchers, like the way I look at it, because like you and I have both been taking outs recorded props a lot lately, and I think like those are fun to root for as well. But what I noticed is like when I see a guy's outs recorded prop, I'm pretty sure Lodolo was at 17.5 and Smiley's at 15.5 today. When I see that they're not even supposed to get through more than 5 innings, basically, I'm like, how likely is this guy going to pick up, X amount of strikeouts? Like, there's only so many opportunities to get outs. When you have a guy like a Sandy Alcantara, who we talked about at the top of the show, where he's pitching 7-8 innings every start, it's a lot easier to stomach a big number on a strikeout prop because he's out there, he's going to get 20 outs. So it's like, okay, there's plenty of opportunities. When you have a guy who's struggling to get through 5 innings, you're putting yourself, like, if the first 2 innings don't go your way, the bet's already dead. So I think that taking the unders here, especially in this environment where it seems like the ball just flies out there, it's just worth a shot, especially for yours at plus money. I love that play.
Yeah, and so now both of us are going to be kind of sweating out this Field of Dreams game with 2 under strikeout props. Hopefully everything works out. My last best bet of the night, I'm gonna go and listen. We're talking about nasty plays with like going unders. I'm betting preseason football right now. I'm taking the Patriots -3 against the Giants, -110. And really, what this comes down to is Bill Belichick is really good in the preseason. He is 43, 39, and 6 lifetime, but in week 1 of the preseason, he's 12, 7, and 3. And I really kind of like the back end of this Patriots roster. It's like, again, it's all preseason. It's very, very weird stuff, but they have Bailey Zappi, who was electric in his last season at Western Kentucky. Then you have Ty Montgomery, who we've seen be a productive player in the NFL. You have Lil Jordan Humphrey as a wide receiver who has made a couple plays with the New Orleans Saints. I normally see his name around this time. He's kind of like a preseason player, so I like him as well. And I just think that we don't really know what we're going to get from the Giants, right? We don't know how Dable is going to approach preseason. And so the second half of the Giants, lineup, it's not great. Like you have Davis Webb, you have Colin Johnson, who also went to UT. Shout out to him. But like Gary Brightwell, you have a lot of guys who I'm just not 100% sure of. So I'll take Belichick. I'll take the better roster there, and so I'll take the Patriots -3. What do you think about that one?
I don't mind it. I don't really like to bet preseason football
Yeah.
for kind of the reasons you mentioned. It's such a crapshoot. Like you're putting yourself in a tough spot because you're relying on guys who a lot of them aren't even going to make the roster. But I don't mind it. I think I think Belichick just as a coach, like you kind of know what you're going to get from Belichick. At the same time, with Dable, we have no clue how he's going to play this. If he's going to want to see like certain guys in different spots, if he's actually going to try and win. So first year head coaches, it's really tough to gauge for sure.
Yeah, I think, and listen, as we're talking about, how crazy it is betting on preseason football. Our guy Don Play says, "Let's cash, fellas." He has the Ravens first half money line. Listen, we are for sure going to get to we're going to get to that at the end of the show, but I'm not really opposed to that. I'll say that right now. And then I need money says, "Don't do it. Preseason football will lead you to your deathbed." I'm 100%
That's
sure.
facts.
I'm 100% sure of that, but I'm taking the risk right now. It's been so long without football, and listen. I'm at the point right now where I'm doing 2 to 3 mock drafts a day. I'm listening to literally like every podcast. I'm fully immersed in it, so I'm ready to be a degenerate this football season, and so yeah, I'll just listen. I'll take it on preseason football.
I think the strategy has to be with preseason football. I think is like if you're gonna bet it, like you got to just do it for the fun factor. You cannot
Oh
expect
yeah,
to like win a ton of bets because it will drive you nuts. Just because like you're betting on the third string quarterback who is probably never gonna play a single snap in the NFL, and it's like you cannot get frustrated at yourself for missing that bet. But
yeah. And I need money says, I hope you're drinking. I'm actually not drinking tonight. But maybe listen, maybe once we get to week 3 or 4 and a couple of, or I guess just week 3, once we get later on in the preseason, maybe we'll see. But we have some more football to get to. We're going to talk about NFL win totals. And so a lot of this offseason, everyone's finding the lines and saying like, oh, I love this team to go over this. I want to know what your best win total take is and what your worst win total take is.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna start with my worst one, the one that I would not touch with a 10-foot pole, and that's the Giants over 7 wins. It's plus 105 over at DraftKings. I would hammer the under here for them at minus 125. The Giants basically, if you go back through what they've done the last few seasons, I just don't know how you can justify this team picking up 8 wins. They haven't won 7 or more games since 2016 when they went 11-5. And since the start of the 2013 season, they have one season, and it was that 2016 season where they had more than 7 wins. One season since 2013. So to say that a first-year head coach with a quarterback who maybe Daniel Jones is better than we saw him these first few years because he didn't really have great coaching stats. But at the same time, we know what Daniel Jones is. He turns the ball over a ton, and he's also very injury prone. So there's a good chance he doesn't suit up for the entire season. You're going to tell me you're going to bet on this team to get 8 wins and push 500, even in a bad division? I don't think it's happening. Again, that wouldn't be a failure for Brian Daboll. I just don't think this team is that good. On paper, it's basically the same team they had last year, and they finished with a top 5 pick. So I'm out on the Giants as a team that can win this many games. I think the under, even though it's at minus 125 at DraftKings, I think that's what I would 100% bet here. And plus, you're getting the caveat of if they do land on 7 wins, you're at least pushing the bet. Like 7-9 is probably the maximum I would think the Giants finish it, or 7-10 is probably the maximum they finish this year. So I could very well see 6-11. I could see 5-12. Like there is no way I touch the over on their win total, especially because the Eagles too. Like the Eagles and the Cowboys are solid in that division. There's no free wins other than like I don't even know if they're that much better than Washington. Like it's unfortunate, like there's no free wins for the Giants this year. So I would stay far, far away from their over.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Everything that you said about Daniel Jones is obviously correct. I think on top of that, you have kind of the question that we're probably going to see for the rest of his career. Maybe this is the last year, but if we are still having questions about whether or not Saquon Barkley is going to get back to what he was, and we are force feeding Saquon and trying to get him to be that explosive back again. I don't really know if we're going to see that again. And like the offensive line improved, but it's still not fantastic. It's still not, one of the better units in the league. So I think that there's a lot more questions than answers about this Giants team. I think that under seven wins is 100% the right take. What's your
Yeah.
what's your what's your worst take though? Or I guess what's your best take?
Yeah, so my best one, the one I like, I love the Chiefs over 10.5 wins. And I know there's a lot of people who think the Chiefs are going to take a step back this year. But yeah, they lost Tyreek Hill. It's going to be a big loss. If they had lost Patrick Mahomes, I would be reacting to this. They lost the receiver. Like, they have Patrick Mahomes. He's still the top three quarterback, if not the best quarterback in all of football. And I like what the Chiefs did this offseason. They lost Tyreek Hill and Tyrann Mathieu. But instead of paying those guys a ton of money, they ended up kind of filling in, like backfilling a lot of this roster. They have several receiving weapons now between Marcus Valdez and Juju Smith-Schuster, where if somebody goes down, like they have Sky Moore, who they drafted in the second round. Like they're not exactly screwed if one guy goes down. Travis Kelce is still there. I think he's one of the most dynamic offensive weapons in all of the NFL. And I thought they had a great draft. They got George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie to really shore up that defense, which kind of let them down at the beginning of last year and progressively got better. I think they found some guys last year like Nick Bolton, like certain guys that stepped up in a big way for them last year, where now they're going to come into the 2022 season. I think this defense can be pretty solid. And they got a vet pass rusher in Carlos Dunlap. They needed more pass rushing help come into this year. So I like that a lot for them. Again, it's a Patrick Mahomes team. Since Patrick Mahomes has become the Chiefs starting quarterback, they've won 12, 12, 14, and 12 games. So now you're telling me in a 17-game season, the second time he's had a 17-game season, they can't win 11 games with Patrick Mahomes? They're going to win 11 games. The division is going to be tough. But when hasn't the AFC West been tough? It was tough last year with the Chargers and the Raiders were both borderline playoff teams. One ended up making it. The Broncos have been a pushover the last couple of years, but at the same time, they've played the Chiefs pretty close. If you look at some of those scores over the past couple of years, where it hasn't been, they walked in, they just won all of those games. So if they can find a way to go 3-3 in the division, which I think is very possible with how talented this team is and Andy Reid coach team with Patrick Mahomes. Now you're asking me the rest of the schedule, they just got to win 8 games. I think it's very doable. They've played a first place schedule for 4 or 5 years in a row now. It's a Patrick Mahomes led team. 10.5 seems way too low. I thought this would be at 11, where like now you're hoping you get a push there. 10.5, I'm hammering the over.
No, I think the best point out of all of that, because for me, there's a big difference between Tyreek Hill and Juju and MVS, and
Oh,
you're
definitely.
and you're hoping to get something out of Sky Moore. So there's a little bit more questions in that receiver room. The thing that I like though is that defense was historically bad last season to start the year. If you ask them to even be slightly below average, right, and you don't force Patrick Mahomes to make him feel like he has to make absolutely every single play, then he's not going to feel that pressure. I actually think the one area that that not having Tyreek Hill is going to be an advantage is that it might bring the ego down for the Chiefs. I think that they've been extremely arrogant for the last 2 years, and they think we can do whatever we want at any time because we have Hill deep and we have Kelce underneath, and we can just throw it anywhere. And now they have to actually go back to the drawing board and say, okay, let's play real football, right? Let's not let's not do like these cover beaters and stuff like that, which obviously they don't do all the time. But I like that pick because I think that the defense is going to be better, and Mahomes and those early wins are going to be there.
I think too, like one of the things that Patrick Mahomes got criticized for last year was just not taking the easy completion. He was like trying to make the hero play. When you don't have the Tyreek Hill who can make the hero play, like I think McCole Hardman could have a breakout year this year. I really believe in his skill set just as a speed guy. But like now you have guys who thrive underneath. Like Juju's a great move the chains guy. Obviously Travis Kelce is. And now you have Hardman and Sky Moore to kind of fill that like stretch the field role. And MVS, like MVS, I know he had his struggles at times with the Packers, but like Patrick Mahomes throws a pretty good deep ball. Like you don't have to hit it every single time with him. You hit it one time, you take the top off the defense, completely changes the game and the game plan. So offensively, I think they'll be fine because they have Patrick Mahomes. But you're right. Exactly. Like the big thing for me is defensively, this team from the second half of last year through now is so much better of a team than they started last year. Where I don't think they get out to a slow start. Like they could very well get out to like a 4-1, 5-1 type of start. And then you're like, okay, the over is basically a lock at this point. They just got to play 500 football. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. So listen, I think that you make complete sense. So you're taking the under on the Giants over 7. You're taking the over on the Chiefs. I'm kind of gonna go in a different way, and so, or not actually, not even in a different way, kind of the same thing. But so my worst win total, I think if you bet this, you are absolutely burning money. The Bears over 6.5 wins. There's no way this happens. There's no way this happens. It's at plus 150. This is I don't know what the Bears are going to do this year. I think that they are actually in contention to be the worst team in the NFL. The offensive line had Justin Fields running for his life last year. In the receiver room, you have Darnell Mooney, who's good, but I don't think he's like a great wide receiver one. 5 of the 8 players that they had in terms of like 5 of their top 8 receivers in terms of receiving yards are not there this year. They're not there. They don't have Allen Robinson is gone. Damiere Byrd is gone. Marquise Goodwin gone. Jimmy Graham gone. Jakeem Grant Sr. just had surgery today, and so they're going to be running this team out with Mooney as the top guy, Byron Pringle, Velus Jones Jr. They traded for N'Keal Harry. He had surgery as well. Like there's just not a lot of weapons for Justin Fields to throw to. The offensive line is still bad. Roquan Smith wants out. I don't like this. I don't like this win total at all. I honestly would take the alternate under at 5.5 at plus 140. I think the Bears are going to be terrible. They're going to finish last in the division. I don't think they're going to be as good as the Lions, who I'm really good on. I think Detroit takes a step forward too. So there's so much wrong with Chicago, and I think that if you're trusting them to play anywhere close to 500 football, that's a mistake.
Yeah, I talked about it yesterday with Ben on our buy or sell segment. Like I'm selling Justin Fields in 2022, not because of Justin Fields, just because the Bears have nothing. Like they're just terrible. If they trade Roquan Smith, which I mean, if they're going to tank this year, you might as well trade Roquan Smith and get some draft picks. If you weren't going to plan on paying him anyway, there's no reason to just ride him out for this year and then let him leave in free agency. But I mean, there's not a good football team. The division is not great. Like I think they could beat the Lions probably, but at the same time, it's like, what are you getting excited about with this team where you're like, yeah, they're going to win this game, this game, this game. I don't think there's any similar to what I said with the Giants. I don't think there's any free wins for the Bears. So 6.5 seems like a ton.
I just think that it's entirely too much for them. But one team that I think is kind of getting a little bit of a discount, and the one that I really, really like is I like the Steelers over 7.5 minus 125. And this is 100% just in kind of blind support of Mike Tomlin. He's been there since 2007, right? They have never finished with a losing record. They've never finished with less than 8 wins. In 2019, when Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt after week 2, and mind you, they were 0-2 when Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt. They finished the season at 8-8. They went 5-3 with Mason Rudolph and 3-3 with Devlin Hodges, right?
Wow.
The quarterback situation that Mike Tomlin has brought the Steelers out of has been much worse than what they have this year. Even though that all the reports from camp have said that Trubisky has not looked good and nobody has really looked good, nobody can look worse than what Ben Roethlisberger looked like last year. And I think that anything that they get is going to be an upgrade in that department. I think the defense, even last year, right? If you look at where they finished, and the fact that their defense was 20th in the league in points allowed, and offensively they were 21st in the league. Somehow they still ended up 9-7-1. They just find ways to win, and this is what the Steelers do year in and year out. Again, I think Trubisky is going to be a slight upgrade over what Roethlisberger was last year. Najee Harris is there. You kind of have some answers in terms of who do we want to feed offensively. Now that Juju's gone, you have a clear 1 in Deontay Johnson and a clear 2 in Chase Claypool. George Pickens is going to be in the mix. I think to get to 8 wins, even if Mike Tomlin finally has a losing season and they get to 8-9, you still hit the bet. So that's why I really really like this bet a lot.
I love this one. I wrote our Steelers preview yesterday, and
Yeah,
I said the same thing, dude. Like, I have so much respect for Mike Tomlin. Like, you talk about best coaches in the NFL, guy who doesn't get enough credit. Mike Tomlin is probably number one in terms of not getting enough credit for how great a coach he is. And this defense is extremely talented. Extremely talented. They added Miles Jack this offseason too, which their middle linebacking core was probably the weakest part of this team. And they added Miles Jack, who's an all-pro caliber linebacker. Um, Hopefully TJ Watt doesn't have to miss games to injury this year. Like the defense might single-handedly win them some games. And I know they also play the Browns early in the season when Deshaun Watson is most likely going to be suspended, which is a game that prior to all of the Deshaun Watson stuff, you probably wouldn't have chalked up as a win for them. I think now that's a very winnable game. They made the playoffs last year. Ben Roethlisberger looked like, a shell of himself. Like there's no way 7.5 is way too low. I would have said it at least 8, just knowing how good Tomlin is.
exactly. And so I think that yeah, and also the AFC North, even when teams are bad, they play each other
So tough.
extremely close year in and year out. And I think even when the Browns were trash, you still had games where you would look up and like, how are they in this game? So I think the division and the fact that Mike Tomlin is there, it leads you to kind of take the over on the Steelers. And it's okay. Like I'm not saying to I'm not saying to bet them to make the playoffs, but to at least have 8 wins. I think that's the way to go. I want to transition into game of the night, and before we get there, our guy Cody Wells chiming in. He said, been mowing, so I'm late, but he has a pick Ian Happ to hit a home run plus 500 in 284 plate appearances against the Red. Happ is hitting 297 with 24 homers, 56 RBIs, and an OPS of 1082. Listen, those are good numbers. Those are good numbers. I don't hate that play at all. We have our daily dinger every day over at BetSided. We've hit 2 days in a row. We might have to add this one to the list. Peter, how you feeling about this one?
Yeah, who'd you take for Daily Dinger today, by the way?
I took Yordan Alvarez.
Okay. All right. I took Joey Votto because I think somebody's going deep in this Field of Dreams game. I would
Yeah,
not be surprised if it's one of our writers, Josh Urish, said this too today, a juiced balls type of game because there's going
yeah,
to be a lot of eyes. But I love this play. I was debating Ian Happ for my Daily Dinger pick as well. I think this is a great play by Cody. He always finds these guys, man. He always
yeah.
finds these guys that have crazy numbers like in a certain matchup. And it's really hard. His logic, I mean, it's fantastic logic. I definitely agree with it there. So at 5-1, that's definitely worth it.
Yeah, so shout out to Cody, shout out to Cody, shout out to I Need Money, shout out to Downplay, everybody who's been commenting and rocking with us today. We're gonna go over to our game of the night, and again, if you guys want to participate in that poll, I mean, I guess it's kind of closed now, but every day on the show we have our poll. Make sure to head over to our YouTube page, like and subscribe. All of the content that we do over there. And so yeah, we love it when you guys are a part of the action. So make sure to like and subscribe so that you guys can get notified whenever we go live. But so we're doing preseason football again as our game of the night, and we have Titans and Ravens. And I'm very curious because even though that's preseason, I feel like this is one of the more intriguing games of the week, and I think that there's a lot of stuff that we can look at. But where are you going with your best bet for this one?
Yeah, so I'm going with the square play because I'm going with the wagon that is John Harbaugh in the preseason. I'm taking the Ravens -3.
Okay.
Um, John Harbaugh has won the numbers with John Harbaugh. This is insanity to me. He's won 20 straight preseason games. The Ravens are 17-2-1 against the spread in those games, and they are 12-1 against the spread in week 1 games of the preseason under John Harbaugh. I mean, that's like those numbers are absolutely nuts. I don't love betting stuff purely on a trend, but when you're talking preseason football, when the personnels are changing every year, and it's mainly going to be guys who are probably you're not ever going to see play in an NFL game, some of them, like why not ride with this one? John Harbaugh clearly cares about the preseason. I think the benefit for the Ravens too Is they're a run heavy offense. Their backup quarterback Tyler Huntley is like a lesser version of poor man's Lamar Jackson. So I think he kind of fits in perfectly. I am a little concerned about Harbaugh being a little careful with guys who would normally play after all the injuries they had last year prior to the season between J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. I mean, they lost everybody. A lot of it in camp, but also in the preseason. But at the same time, he wants to win these games. I think they come out and they play. I also don't know like what we're gonna see from the Titans. I'm sure you're gonna talk about it, but like Malik Willis is probably gonna play a lot tonight. So rookie quarterback in his first NFL experience. It could go well, it could go really bad. I'm just gonna stick with the coach that for some reason loves winning preseason games. I bet Ravens fans wish he loved winning playoff games this much.
Yeah, dang, that's a straight. No, listen, I agree with you. I think that the Ravens, and it's not just like it's 1 year. This is 20 straight preseason games. This is over like 5-6 years. So I completely agree. I don't hate it. My pick, I'm going with the total on this one. I'm going over 32 points. I think that, and we kind of saw it in the Hall of Fame game where everybody was riding the under, and we're everybody, the kind of thought is, oh, it's preseason, these teams are bad, we're just going to blindly bet the under. I kind of feel like there's a couple spots where you can pick the over, and this is one of them. And since 2019, and let me see if this will pull up. I might have to refresh it. I don't know if it's working, but like the over is actually a sneaky good play. And obviously, the site doesn't want to pull up, but I think that even without the numbers, if you just look at what the Titans have to offer, like you said, they have Malik Willis, who's probably going to play a majority of the game. You have Hassan Haskins from coming over from Michigan. I think those two can be really really electric in this offense. And we're probably not going to see Treylon Burks because he is, a starter, and he probably won't play for long. But I'm curious to see how he looks. I think that he might be able to do something early in this offense. And so I think that like at 32 points, if you have a Ravens team in the preseason that's just a wagon, I think you're going to be able to get more than 17-15. And even if it's just 17-16, I think you're going to be able to get more. This might be a wide open game for Malik Willis, who does have tools to kind of move around and be a little bit mobile. So even if stuff breaks down early, we might just turn this into backyard football for week one. And I think that the over has a pretty good chance to hit. So I'm on the over. You're on Ravens -3. The community is siding with you, and they are going with Ravens -3. So you get to kind of double down on that. I will join you in that play. And so I guess we're rooting for the Ravens tonight. We're rooting for a high scoring Ravens win. And
Like
that
that.
that is, yeah, so that will be our pick. Before we get out of here, I want to recap kind of all of our picks for the day. For game of the night, obviously you're on Ravens -3. I'm on over 32. We have a recap graphic to go over all of our picks. You are on the Sun -11 in the WNBA. They're playing the Los Angeles Sparks. You're taking the Orioles money line against the Red Sox at +105, and then you're taking the under on Nick Lodolo's strikeouts at -155, under 7.5 strikeouts in the Field of Dreams game. I'm going to take the Sky money line, which is at even money against the Aces. I'm taking the Patriots -3 against the Giants. That is at -110. And I'm taking the under also in the Field of Dreams game for Drew Smiley strikeout props. That is +110. Got some plus value there. So those are all of our picks for the day. Listen. It's been a great show. We won't have a show tomorrow because Ian is going to be the only one on, and so he's not gonna get some podcast practice in. But we will be back on Monday at our normal time, 5 Eastern. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, like and subscribe down below on all of our content. We have a whole bunch going on. We have our team previews rolling out every single day leading up to the NFL season. We have our 32 best bets for each team that you guys can check out over at BetSided. It's just a lot of exciting stuff to go over. But until Monday, right, whenever everyone's back, we'll see you guys then, and may all your bets hit.